welcome to Every Day is a New Day.
Kim O'Neill from KimO'NeillCoaching.com.
We are live. Hello and welcome to another episode of Every Day is a New Day. I'm your host, Kim O'Neill, and as always, I'm really excited to share with you today's guest. Over the next hour, I'm going to be speaking with Paula Brown, and let me share with you a little bit about Paula. And I'm going to pop her bio up here on the screen. So Paula Brown of Chi-Lightful is a Heartist. She gets leaders unstuck. She's an intuitive, quick sketch artist and purpose coach. And leaders hire Paula to literally and figuratively draw out the true north heartbeat of their purpose. Her purpose was born when her own heart stopped beating, and we're going to hear more about that. And today she sketch quests the heart of communications, goals, and big ideas for her clients. So that's just a little tiny tidbit of who Paula Brown is and what she does. And so with that said, I want to welcome Paula Brown to the show. So welcome, Paula.
Hi, it's so good to be here. And this is going to be a fun talk, I can tell.
I agree. So, so how are you doing today?
Great. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful sunny day where I am, and I hope it's a lovely day and evening for everybody else. It's been a wonderful day, jam-packed, but it's been good busy.
Good. Yeah, it's been a wonderful day for me as well. And so for those who are watching us live, do feel free to go ahead and say hello and let us know how your day is going. And if you have questions that come up for me or for Paula during the show, do feel free to go ahead and type those down below in the chat. We are live here on Facebook. And so anybody who's watching the replay, you can connect with us over at Kim O'Neill Coaching. And of course, do still comment, and we would love to connect with you even after the show as well. So, and let's just take a quick look here. It looks like we've got a couple of people with us. So hello to Serenity. Yay, a fun talk. It's a cloudless midwinter day here in Australia. We love it. Thank you so much for being with us, Serenity. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and close Facebook, but I can still see your comments. So do go ahead, and if you want to connect with us, click on the actual video and type your comments right there in the body of where this video is showing up. So let's get back to our guest today. And I'm glad to hear that you're having a good day today, Paula. I introduced just a little bit about who you are and what you do, but will you go ahead and elaborate for our guests? Tell us more in your own words about who you are and what you do.
Very, very simply, I'm a Heartist. I connect heart to heart with everything that I do. And my specific talent is to ignite others' hearts by showing them who they are and finding and discovering who they are. I'm the missing link, so to speak, between your big idea and getting it out there and being seen in the public. Sometimes we all speak in master degree language, and I pare it down by doing sketch quests, quick sketch illustrations of what is actually going on in your ideas and your heart. And if you've even got a heartbeat anymore, after doing, you've got to get back to your being. And so what is it that you're here for? So I help you find your what, your unique heart, your true north, and put that back into your business and your life by showing you in visuals, what you're speaking and saying and what you're talking and what you're teaching. So I literally draw out what you're saying so you can share it with others in the universal language of pictures.
I love it. And I've seen some of your drawings, and they're so intriguing. They're fun. They're very meaningful. They're very purposeful. And
yes,
I love that.
Yeah, my motto is really, how do you put your purpose into pictures so other people understand exactly where you're coming from, so you can make safe change. It's a safety net for change, and it's totally unintimidating. Everybody can jump on board, have fun, and it ignites big ideas into bigger ideas by really having an inclusive flavor to your communications and also showing them what you're talking about. Sometimes their stuff just goes way over their heads and you got to get back to kindergarten. So my pictures kind of get you back there and also show you your aha moments that you just take for granted. It's like the ketchup in the refrigerator door. It's there. Yes. You just don't see it.
That is so right? Or the pickle relish. Like, oh, how long have I had pickle relish? And like, forgot I had it, never eat it.
Yeah. And you absolutely love it probably, right? And it's just part of you, it's like, okay, we got to take a look at that.
Well, one thing I love, so it sounds like you definitely work on the what, but I also love that you said you work on the who. You help them draw out who they are. Will you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know for myself, I've seen how we can get disconnected when we start to talk in these, in lingo and terminology. We don't realize how we may be in tune with what that means, but other people disconnect from it and can't quite connect to it. And will you elaborate more on the who part of that?
Yeah, I do these things called sketch quests. And you take one question that you feel like you're really stuck with or want to know about, like a style or a characteristic or your communication styles, what you really want to do, if is it valid? You need validation for something. Then we have an hour-long conversation and I ask intuitive questions and I take sketches and do notes during our hour-long conversation. It's usually by phone. And I give a black and white summary of this afterwards within 48 hours. And then we get on the phone and we talk about it. And it's just totally amazing that's when you find your who or your why. And it's really around the why. Because if you know the why, then you can lead from that platform. And most people are speaking it, but they just don't know they're saying it. And bar none, I've had many, many sketch quests that the phone drops when they see the second page of the summary, because it naturally falls into an intuitive, like 8 or 10 page, summary of values, challenges, flow, obstacles, those type of things and qualities that you really own. And they all say, where did these pictures come from? Where do these words come from? How are you doing this? And I said, they're your words. They're your pictures. And then there's this pause. And then all of a sudden they get excited and saying, oh my gosh, that is me. That is who I am. That is what I want to say. And now I can share it. And I had one retreat owner that beautiful, beautiful 5-star small retreat. And she really couldn't figure out, she couldn't define the value that she was giving. And she was a crackerjack person and she was a therapist. And so we did a sketch quest and she finally understood it and she could communicate it. And from this sketch quest, she got 3 huge bookings into her retreat for very high level, CEOs, corporate executives and stuff to come to unpack their baggage. She was really good at unpacking baggage and helping people unpack their obstacles in a natural setting. And it all had to do with the nature around it. So it combined the nature and it combined her nature. And she was in the perfect spot. She knew it, but she didn't trust it. And so by seeing it and being validated, you can trust it. And you can bring people through your changes. You can bring people through more choices that you give them and more choices you give yourself. So that's really all about the who or the why of why you're doing something, and why are you stuck? You can figure out why you're stuck and then, possibly reach out and get help to change those patterns or at least be aware of them.
It sounds like you really help people gain clarity.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're so visual that having an image like what you're doing and pairing that up with what they do probably helps them to integrate that more into really owning who they are and what they do.
Yes, and it's been proven. There's been a lot of research on this, and it's come down to people process visuals, understand visuals, 60,000 times faster than a word. We are hardwired to survive by giving out visual input, output, and also taking in visuals, because, when you're a baby, did you understand MOM? Or did you understand the face of your mom?
Yeah.
That's where it all comes down to. And it's you just process it quicker. And so you cut the fat from, your team process. You cut the fat from your own non-belief of what you're doing and what you are. If you see it, you can move forward more quickly and focus on your goals. It gives you the clarity to focus on your goals and to actually separate the goals from the tasks. You just become you become way task oriented, and that's the doing. And these pictures, for some reason, turn doers into beers. They're being.
I love this. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just pause for a moment. I see one of our live viewers has asked to see some of your drawings. Do you happen to have any you can hold up for us?
I don't have any on my desk. If we can pause, I can go find one.
Or let's go ahead.
I wasn't ready for that.
That's okay. I know. I thought about that too. I was like, wait a second, don't I have something? And I couldn't locate the one I had of yours. Well, in lieu of that, they are asking for the URL to your website. Let's just go ahead and give them that now.
Sure. I actually have two websites. If you want to see all the pictures, it's www.picturestorming.com. That's just all the pictures. And the coaching and the pictures are at www.Chi-Lightful.com. It's CHILIGHTFUL.com. And it's full of pictures. So I have this funky sketch, quick sketch style that I do journals for, locations, retreats, webinars, the whole thing. So it really, for some reason, there's this magnetic attraction to these pictures that are online, and people are now using them on Twitter feeds and all sorts of things. And they get much higher click-throughs if they attach one of the illustrations to the Twitter feed.
Okay, so first off, I'm not surprised that they're being shared and loved so much. But let's address that. I bet that has something to do with the chi of the drawings.
Yes, yeah. This is my purpose. So when you're working from your purpose basis of your what, my purpose is to draw things out. So I'm sort of like the Harry Potter sorting hat, right? And you dump all this complex stuff in, and it sorts out and it funnels down into one concise key frame. And I used to do this in the advertising world. I was a creative director for very large ad agencies on the East Coast. And I was in charge of new business and finding the essence of a product or a service, of a visual identity, of a branding. I was a branding expert. So now I'm a branding expert for people and their ideas. And there's just some vibe about it because it is my purpose. So all that wonderful high frequency vibration of me drawing and of my intent to find your intent, it just works. It just attracts who you need to attract. It creates this funky alignment. And I haven't been able to describe it other than, hey, I'm here doing my purpose, helping people find their purpose and finding the purpose of their communications and the educations and the whole thing. If you just do a blah, 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 and do template of somebody else because somebody else told you that works, it's not going to work. It's going to work for a certain amount of time. That's it.
I love how stuff happens like this. So I was just talking to someone earlier today about being in alignment with your purpose and how that makes such a difference in the results you receive. And so that leads me to want to ask you, was there ever a time when you weren't working in your purpose, or did you feel that you weren't? And how did you now move closer to being on purpose?
Yeah. Whenever you're off purpose, not such great things happen to you. And the obstacles pull you back into your line. And I kept working in the branding field for years and years and years. And I moved back west to LA, and all of a sudden I had a health emergency. And I was well sought after for my branding expertise and whatnot. And I ended up in the hospital in an emergency on the operating table, and I lost all my blood. And they couldn't figure out what was going on. Neither could I. And they were about ready to operate, and I died. And I heard code blue. And I did the pass away thing. And I went down the tunnel, saw a lot of people. I'm the last of my family here on the physical plane. And my father stepped out in front of me and said, "You must go back." And he put up his hands. And he said, "You have to go back. You have to find purpose, help with purpose." And wham, I was back in my body in a lot of pain. And they'd got my blood pressure up, and I heard the doctor say, put her under. And I grabbed the doctor and said, why did you bring me back? Because it was such a lovely place. I wanted to stay. It was a wonderful experience. And I woke up and he wanted to talk to me. That thing you said, why did you bring me back? Do you want to talk about that? And I didn't. And for 10 years, I did a lot of work in the discovering the invisible world of connections with Feng Shui, with Qigong, with becoming a Hawaiian shaman. I really, really studied it to understand what had happened to me. And by really being stubborn about being a branding expert, all sorts of not great things happened to me. And I really changed my life. And then I went more towards the arts and the invisibles and become a soul coach. And so it really changes. And when you're not on your purposeful path, when you have a mission, and you do too, people have mission, visions, and purpose statements, right? And they have gifts. So it's really your obligation at some point to realize what your gift is, why you are here. And I finally figured it out after being hit over the head with a baseball bat a few times. But, yes, I went for the money, got the golden handcuffs, and it didn't work. I wasn't happy. And this is making me happy. So it took a long time to make that change, but actually I've always been a very intuitive person. I'm an intuitive and an empath. And that's why I can get right to the heart of things, because I just read people's hearts. And so when I refused to just open up my heart and use my head and became in strategy land,
wow,
it didn't work. I wasn't working for the aligned people. It wasn't a smooth road. It was a very successful road, but it wasn't smooth and happy. And I guess that's all I can really say about it. It's so much better when you're working on purpose and on point and very focused and very clear about who you are. And it still takes a lot of challenges. Yeah.
What were your thoughts about your own life purpose prior to doing what you do today?
I knew I was a connector somehow to nature, animals, and people. Okay. And I really didn't have an idea of how to do that. And I was a natural finder of the heart of things and the emotional hook of things and the emotions of things, because that's coming from the heart. But I didn't really know what to do with it. And I was a big TV creative director, art director, and I did storyboards before the scripting was done. Okay. And I come up with the concepts with the pictures first. And then I realized that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And all throughout college, I would be doodling through like inorganic chemistry classes and physics classes. And people would want to buy my doodle notes rather than the cliff notes in order to pass the test, because they understood my doodles better than the cliff notes. So I was well known for selling my doodle notes. Isn't
that so awesome when you can see how the pieces all come together? I've been on this journey for many years, but you probably didn't know back then how it was going to fit into the bigger picture of where you are today.
Yeah, it's like I think the person that's trying to find out their why, their how, and their what is clueless until they speak to somebody else and have some sort of interaction. Yeah. I mean, it's very hard to do by yourself. And I was doing it by myself until I met a couple of really great teachers and mentors. And then they were saying, Paula, did you learn anything in this class? You seem to know all of this naturally. And I said, yeah, I kind of did this when I was little. She says, well, why did you stop? I'm going, well, people told me it was very strange. And, to use my intuition rather than my mind. And I was supposed to actually be a trial lawyer, and so I went to law school for a while.
It's like,
could you imagine? and that's all in your head, right? And I really fit in there because I was all in my head, and it really took my heart to stop beating to find my heart. It really did, because I was going down okay, I'm going to be a litigator and all these things, and no, not meant to be.
Okay, so let's take a quick look and see if there are any audience comments here. We're seeing it's subliminal, right? So I think that was back to something that you said earlier. And love your sketches. Yes, I do too, Serenity. Yeah, I'm glad you checked her website out already. And she also asks, you mean we all have a mission? I wanted to ask a question about that. It sounded like you were, you acknowledged a moment ago that you now are focused on the types of clients that you serve. But have you ever tried to work with someone who maybe didn't believe they had a purpose, and were you able to help connect the dots for them that sort of opened them up to seeing some of that? Or just curious?
It's very difficult. It's like we all have our audiences and we all have our alignments. And I seem to be aligned with people who want to find that, who are just stuck. I mean, I get a lot of stuck people because it's at some point in your life after you're doing 20s, you're doing. It hits you right about mid-30s and on. If you have a mission, you start to really question things, and then you get stuck. And those with missions, we don't all have a mission. We all have a purpose. We all have an essence. We all have a vision, and we all have a gift. And some of us have missions, and you can really tell that when you have a burning desire to do something and somebody tells you just to go get a job and you can't.
Yeah. Yep.
You'd rather eat popcorn and beans, and sometimes you do. And then when you're forced to get a job, you usually get laid off within 6 months.
Wow.
That's the sign of somebody with a mission. And if they're hustling and if they're really trying, they're not just couch potatoes, right? But they're just, man, there's something more than this. There's just something more. And you can do your purpose in so many different modalities. You don't have to just do one thing. Right. And it changes. Yeah. You have choice. Like you're saying, you have choice. You have choice in how you do it. You don't have a choice of who you are. That's always there. But you do have choices, and that makes it very flexible and also very confusing at the same time.
Right, because there's a lot of leeway and creativity that can be infused, and sometimes it's harder to figure out what to do next when you feel like you've actually got so many options. I mean, I love having options, but when you have so many options, that can make things a little like all over the place too. Yeah.
And actually, to your point, it's the difference between a linear thinker and a non-linear thinker. And most of our judgments in this world happen from extremely strong linear thinking and thinkers. And that's where, like I have a lot of different talents and I just totally confuse them. And those are the people that aren't my support group. The people that are my support group are the ones that have all these curiosities and all these things that, they're having tough times choosing which idea and which talent to go after. You do have to focus a little bit, but, the whole multitasking thing doesn't work very well. Yeah. But, you can use all your different talents if you can corral them into one corral and then figure out what the similarity is at all. Because my similarity is just heart to heart. I'm a Heartist, and that's how I do things. And I bring in strategies from the mind, of course. And it's the obligation to bridge the mind and the heart. That's what creates the huge successes out there and the most fulfillment. We have egos, we have souls. They have to talk to each other, and make each other happy. That's it.
So, okay, I have a few different questions that are coming to mind. I'm going to go with the clients that you work with first, I guess. So you work with leaders and you work with people who are, of course, in alignment with what you do. But tell us more. Tell us more about the clients that you work best with and who you can serve.
I work best with, leaders is one way of saying it, but influencers. So if you're a mom that's looking for your thing to get away from after the kids get to school and stuff, she's an influencer. She's influencing her family. She's influencing the people that she's going to be interacting with, and she's got value. And so I work with influencers that, you don't have to be in charge of a
CEO.
Tesla Corporation. Yeah. Most of the times the CEOs and the big companies are the ones that use my sketch summaries, and people with retreats and organizations like, that help you find yourself, that type of thing. Intuitives who have also a business sense. They've already mixed the strategy and the creativity together. I work with people who have big ideas that have created huge companies, and they're like solo entrepreneurs. They're like serial entrepreneurs, and they need to go on to the next thing all the time. Yeah. And they just can't get everybody on board, but they're on board. So why isn't everybody else on board? They don't get it. I'm going, geez, you're talking way over their heads. And what the heck? And I also work with people who are very innovative. I did a big sketch thing for an incubator in Sweden that had 4 different countries and 4 different languages. And the person who was in charge of corralling everybody together, they were working on a top secret GPS thing, so, well, we've got a 22-page white sheet, and we're stalled out. So can you put illustrations in it? I said, sure, but these are going to be kind of comical. And he says, that's fine. He says, you're not going to be able to understand any of this. I said, no, I worked on large, high-tech software. I said, for some reason, I can just put my hand on something and understand it. That's just my talent. And so I put in 10 illustrations in this white sheet. And a week later, they all met again. They're all in Sweden. And all of a sudden, I get this email and said, we're talking. The biggest complaint they had was that they couldn't communicate. They had these ideas and they couldn't communicate. And so by doing pictures, it started talking. And they were all, in their egos saying, well, if I talk first, that'll mean that I don't understand their stuff and they don't understand my stuff. And with these interesting illustrations, they kind of got a kick out of them. So they started talking about the illustrations. And then the conversation started flowing, and the interpreters started understanding what each part of these groups put towards the whole. So it starts conversations, and it's not judgmental. It's like, well, why don't you start talking? It's like, oh, you've got something to kind of joke about or laugh about or comment about. And it shows your transparency, and it also shows their transparency without intimidation.
I love
that. Works.
That's a beautiful story to really depict how you are a connector. You help other people connect. That's awesome. So I know we're halfway through the show now, but I want to ask you, this show is called Every Day is a New Day. And I want to get your thoughts on that. What does every day is a new day mean to you?
It means quite a bit, actually, since I've died and come back.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going, wow, I'm just so blessed to be here. I just, I have my bad days too. And I wake up grumbly every once in a while. But when the sun is out and I can go take a walk, I have a new opportunity to be giving and to learn something. I have a deep curiosity. So every day for me is a really neat thing to go find something new to mix it in with what I already know. And I just have a huge curiosity about the world and cultures and nature. And I just find it fascinating to wake up and try and figure out what's going to be new that day.
I love that. That's actually a little bit of a different answer than what I've heard from other people. It sounds like you really have an understanding of how to make each day fresh and new through curiosity and just enjoying the little things.
Yeah. And it's like what I do with people and my clients. I love finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. And I just think that people gloss over things too fast.
Can you give me some example?
Well, it's like, okay, I'll go back to my 5th grade teacher, right? I had this crush on Mr. Boyd in the 5th grade. And I was always very different. He looked like Paul Newman, he was really good looking. And I was very, very quiet person. And I used to, along with Mike Nakamura, go out and hunt treasure during recess rather than play tetherball. We would do treasure hunts. And so here's the teacher parent conference. I'm going, oh gosh, I'm going to be busted. And he calls me in, and he's got my mom there, and he's got an apple. And he said, Paula, sit down. And if you cut the apple in the regular way, along the vertical from top to bottom, you see a heart inside with all the seeds. He says, but you take this apple. He had 2 of them. He says, you take this apple and you cut it through the center on the horizontal, and inside's a star. And there's a star inside. And he said, you find the stars inside of everything. Oh. And I went, oh, I love you even more.
Wow. He saw that in you in 5th grade?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And he said, you're quiet and everything, but that's okay. This is your talent. This is your ability, and you must really love it. And he just was one of the biggest inspirations in my life. So that apple really represents taking the ordinary and finding something extraordinary inside or out of it, right?
Absolutely.
So that's kind of, that's how I look at things. So that's just me.
Okay, well, that's a fantastic story. So first off, shout out to that teacher. He sounds like an amazing teacher. And secondly, I think you called it a rug. The rug behind you, it has stars on it. I feel like it's a star. I feel like it's representing what you just talked about.
It's a diamond, and I seem to get the diamonds in the rough, and then we polish them up, and they become diamonds, and they shine. It's like when you ever take something raw and you polish it up, everybody notices it. So it's the ability to show your shine and get your story visible. I mean, we're all wearing cloaks of invisibility with our stories, and except for a rare few of us, but most of us just don't communicate it well, including me, so
it takes practice. Okay. So let's move on to the next part of this, of what I want to ask you. What I like to ask every guest is, this is the inspirational interview show about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. And that means something different for everybody. But you shared with us earlier your story about how your heart stopped beating, and how it sounded like there was a 10-year journey of figuring out how things were going to fall into place next for you. So is there an element of that story when you look back and realized that you did have to shift your thinking or choose to embrace a positive or, a different belief system to really support you in moving forward?
Yeah, it was taking a very unpopular point of view at the time. In business, one never said soul. In business, never, it was madman. I was a madman in New York City. I was an ad guy, right? Okay. And so you didn't talk about that stuff. And once I started talking about it, I mean, I really got a strange label, and it really took a lot of guts and nerves to stand. And, I'd shirk back and then, join the normalcy of it. And, it's all about compliance. And I've always been on the leading edge of thinking in these terms. And when it wasn't that popular, and I'm very grateful now that people can speak their mind about being a telepath and being an empath, and knowing that's, and not being labeled something that is just wacky, and so I really, really had to walk on eggs for a long, long time. And finally I just said, nope, I got to consult. I have to have my own business. And I left the agency business, and it was a real hard leap. And I was mentioning soul and essence way before most people accepted that. And so now it's different. The timing is good, but how uncomfortable can you feel when you're non-compliant? Right. And that's when you grow. That's where the growth is. When you do something outside of your comfort zone.
When you use that term non-compliant, I hear being out of alignment with your purpose. Is that how you mean it?
No, it's being non-compliant with what everybody else is doing and thinking. It's like, and also, you're right. It can be non-compliant with your purpose. When you are compliant, then most of the times you're not walking your talk. Or if you have a talk, you don't know the talk. Right. And you become very uncomfortable in your own shoes, and people can feel that, whether you know it or not. People feel that, pick it up. And then then you put it back on yourself and you get all sorts of things like creative people never think they're enough. That's the standard disease for creative people. And so it's like coming out of the closet with your purpose and really standing there and showing up the way you need to show up to be unique and not a template. And other people are running along the templated version, and it's okay, it's safe. But to be non-compliant with something is actually create your own world. And there's a lot of naysayers to that because they have the fear of doing it themselves.
Oh my gosh. So Paula, I want to say thank you for living on purpose. And you're very much a trailblazer then for being one of those brave people that has been, non-compliant and using the terminology that speaks to your purpose and what it is that you have to serve and give others, and just all those things, because it is still challenging for some of us. But I can also see how it's easier today than it probably was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and beyond.
Yes.
So,
and thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly. Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah. No, my background doesn't quite, some of my background doesn't quite fit with what I'm doing today either. And so choosing to step out and do the things that speak to who I am and what I want to do. It's kind of like this dance, finding, your footing and feeling comfortable with it. But, I do feel that the purpose helps you just keep going and keep trying and experiment again and try this different, and until it feels better.
Yeah. It's the purpose is really your touchstone. Yeah. And you go back to it and it. And when things get rough and things aren't really happening, you can use it as a touchstone. And that's what these visuals are in a way. They're stepping stones and they're touchstones. So you can actually see if you're going down the right way, or you can see if you're off focus, or see why you don't have clarity. You can go back to these illustrations and go, oh, yeah, that's right. Oops. Let's go ahead and have a cup of coffee and let's reorganize and get back on the path, and when you have friends and support and employees that know exactly what the path is, when you see your whole corporation kind of going off onto la la land or in a straight, not non-aligned way, you can have a meeting and say, hey, remember, we're this, and that. Without a logo and a brand doesn't do that. The purpose does that.
It's the heart.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
the heartbeat of your company, and the brand reflects that. But so many people make the mistake of thinking that the brand and the logo is the purpose, and it isn't. You have to have a statement, and you have to live it, and you have to show it, and you have to have people follow up with you. Everybody's got to be on the same page. So what are some tips or maybe some questions you can give the audience to ask themselves to help them be more in alignment with their purpose, or figure out what their purpose is? Are there any tips you can offer to share with them? Yeah, I always tell people to think back, and when they were like, as early as they could remember as a child, what did they love to do? And just sit and journal about it. And then think of a teenage time, and where were they having difficulties? And then where were they, when you're a teenager, you're into rebellion and all this stuff. And you will find a kernel of what you're rebelling against in the childhood flow, because by the time you're a teenager, you've got a lot of judgments. You've got a lot of people telling you what to do, why to do. And maybe you've had your purpose stepped on many times, and it's just kind of hurting at that point. And so you can really pinpoint when you went off purpose. Everybody's born knowing who they are. It's like the oak tree. The acorn doesn't grow into a willow. It grows into oak. It knows exactly what it's doing. And when we're children, we know exactly what we're here for. And it's through all of our peer group and our parents' fears and everything else. By the time we're teenagers, we've got all this. Okay, what are you rebelling against? And most of the times it's like your purpose is in there too. So you compare the two, the pros and cons of both of them, And it's usually going back to the flow when you were a child and really locking into that and seeing how you flow as an adult. What is your flowy place that you really almost take for granted and can't even see anymore? And that usually has something to do with your purpose. So take stock and where you've been.
I love it. Thank you for sharing all those. So what do you do when you notice that maybe you get off purpose a little bit or a little bit out of your flow? What helps you get back to that center place?
I am a person that likes to move. And so I take a walk. I do some what they call japa meditation. And I take a walk.
About that to someone. Okay, like a walking meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us more.
Yeah. And so I just walk and stomp it out. And usually I just start talking to myself and look like a total idiot. And I usually do this in a path in nature down the street. So I don't really offend many people, but I just start talking. And so I just have conversation with myself. And by the time I get home, I've got at least 3 great ideas. And I'm going, oh, I just needed to move. I needed to shift some energy. Yes. And for me, I can meditate for hours. I can sit still for hours and do that type of meditation. But it's the movement meditation that gets me unstuck. And, breathing deep rather than shallow, taking deep breaths.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you always into movement meditation? Because this is something that I've just started to identify. Oh, this is the next phase of meditation for me, is a movement kind of meditation.
I, as a child, used to walk. And when I got angry or frustrated, I used to walk and run. And I was an Olympic athlete too. I ran. And yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit more about that? I don't want to gloss over that.
Yeah, I was a running long jumper, and I ran when, Black Power was popular. I was in the Mexico Olympics way back when, and I was very young.
Congratulations.
But I always moved. And I remember when I was a young kid, if I started to be fussy, I was always laughing and moving. And when I was being fussy, my mom would put me on the counter and run water, because I like to listen to running water. Oh, wow. So the activity of something running was always in my well-being. And just the wave action of the surf, go down to the ocean, you listen to the movement and you watch the movement. And so when I was I took medical Qigong for 5 years after a small accident. And I was introduced to walking meditation during medical Qigong, and it just hit all the home runs for me. So it was great. I even talked myself into never growing gray, and, you can just repeat yourself. I have brown hair, and I don't have any gray hair. So, it's great.
I'm going to start doing
tip.
That. Yes. So far, that's the best tip. No, just kidding. It's not.
You're right. That's the best part of the interview.
That's my new mantra. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So tell us more. I'm just being mindful of the time here. I'm loving talking to you, by the way, Paula. So thank you for being here.
It's fun. We're having a great talk. I love it.
Yeah. So I believe you are also an author, correct?
Yes. I have. When you asked, what's a good way to find your purpose? I actually have a free offer you can download, and it's a multi-page PDF that walks you through the beginning of a purpose quest, and it just gets you primed. And you can find it at www.purposemapquest.com, or you can find it on the homepage of my website.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun. And after you're done, I always challenge people, okay, if you actually do this to the very end, give me a call and I'll give you a 20-minute consultation and see if you want to go further. It's a beginning. And purpose hunting is a process. You just don't do it overnight. And so because people have these funky patterns that are blocking them seeing it. And so that's why mixing pictures and coaching works really well. But I'd love for you to download this. And it's really fun, and it's full of my illustrations. And it's real simple. It's like kindergarten stuff. So try it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, is that also part of your book? Is that?
No, I have a book published and it's of a very different ilk.
Okay.
It's Feng Shui, an introduction to Animal Feng Shui. And it's all about black hat feng shui in a very creative way. And I illustrated, designed, and wrote it. And I'm an empath and a telepath. So I also communicate with nature. So you can find out about my other talents in there. And I'm working on a children's book now that I really am fond of, that really is meant for empowering young people. So hopefully that'll be out soon. So that'll be good.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that then. Yeah, I definitely wanted to acknowledge the book. And the free offer sounds exciting. Tell us the website again for the free offer.
Yeah, it's www.purposequestmap. It's purpose and then QUEST map.com. And that'll throw you to hi, I'd like to have your name and then download this PDF. So Purpose Quest Map. Yeah. And then also you can go to Chi-Lightful.com and you'll scroll way down and you'll see it in red, and you can download it from my website as well. So there's 2 opportunities.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, let's see here if we have any audience comments we have not addressed yet. And Serenity says, I've heard all about it and know nothing about it. Okay, wait, I think that was a while back, actually. So I'll take that down. But thank you so much, Serenity, for being here with us live. And for those who are watching the replay, do know that we value your comments as well. So feel free to go ahead and comment wherever you are seeing the replay of this. And we'd love to connect with you and respond to any questions or comments you have as well. And let me ask you, so it sounds like you've just always been very creative and into drawing. Was there ever a time when you started to step away from that and not infuse that into your life? I don't know. I'm just coming up with this question.
Yeah. I've always had some form of creativity, whether it's throwing pots or drawing and painting. And I really walked away from the drawing and painting for about a 10-year period. And that was after a divorce. And I was moving from East to West Coast and back and forth. And I just sort of lost a little bit of my muchness, as they say in Alice in Wonderland. And my love and my creativity and my joy is sparked by doing this. And so when I got back into it, I picked myself up again. And, I've always been doodling and drawing in the sand, doing everything and communicating via visuals. And that's just my thing. And when I walked away from it, it just was a very bland period of my life. It was very gray. And I was working in the agencies and doing well, but boy, it was really great to get back to the TV storyboards. And then I realized it was the storyboarding that really, really did it for me. And I was very happy again. I was doing a lot of strategic new business pitches and all that good stuff as part of the creative department. But I walked away from it for a little while, and now I'm full back into it.
I love it. Well, I think we are going to wrap up. Is there anything extra you would like to share with the audience today, Paula?
Oh, I just would like to have everybody bless the present, trust yourself, and just know that you have choices. Never feel that you're stuck in a corner, because you really aren't. You just really need to know yourself and trust yourself, and don't listen to anybody else but yourself. And then you'll be able to give back and love yourself and do good things. So, I just think your show is just so much fun and giving people a lot of choices. So it's good.
Thank you, Paula. I appreciate that. And I love all your final thoughts. I completely agree with that. So thank you, Paula, for being here with us today. And thank you to all those who are with us live and all those who are on the replay as well. You can find out more about the Everyday is a New Day show by going to KimO'NeillCoaching.com or find me on Facebook at Kim O'Neill Coaching. And O'Neill is Oneill. And I love doing this show. And I want to also remind you that every day can always be a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. And that is where our ability to choose something different comes into play and really supports and serves us in being able to move forward. And know that even when you can't see those other things, there are other people who would absolutely love to support you. So do reach out to others if you are looking for support. And I just, I don't know, just hugs and kisses to everybody right now. That's where I'm ending the show. So thank you for being here. And until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye for now.